Here we go, 1:30. It is time for another episode of our Stay Connected series where we have the one and only crazy adventurer, motivational speaker, public speaker, and general good bastard that I've known for coming up 12 years now, I think, Mr. Kevin
Right.
Biggar. 12
Thank
years.
you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Now, Kevin is well known in many different circles. He more recently is taken to running marathons and half marathons in crazy outfits like dinosaur suits,
Dinosaurs, Minions,
minions.
Elvis.
Yeah, but most
Elvis,
people will know Elvis on stilts, wasn't it?
Elvis.
Elvis on stilts. Most people will know you for First Crossings, or it went through two iterations, wasn't it? First Crossings and just
First
Crossings.
Intrepid NZ.
Intrepid NZ. So there's 2 seasons or 3 seasons of
2 seasons
TV.
of First Crossing, one of First Intrepid NZ.
Yep. Amazing series. And I've actually got some questions on that from some people that have emailed in. And I first came across Kevin not long after he did the first transatlantic rowing race. 6 weeks stuck in a boat with a guy that had only met a month before, pretty much. And you did it twice.
Well, I did the same. Well, I did a trip to the South Pole. Yes, so
Yep.
have spent 2 periods of long self-isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the trek to the South Pole, how long did that end up taking?
And that was 52 days on the trek, but we were there about a week afterwards as well.
Mm-hmm. So two months, and the big proportion of that is stuck every night in a 2x1 tent with another guy, neither of you showering and smelling beautifully.
Yeah.
So really, I can't think of a better person to talk about resilience in the face of adversity. So welcome, mate. That's a rather long, convoluted introduction, but what else do you want to add?
I think you've nailed it on the head, really. I've just found these, the first week of self-isolation seemed a bit odd to me. And lots of things, it seemed odd, but lots of things went wrong. But then it was quite strange as well. And because it was novel, you could get through, you sort of got through on adrenaline on the first week. And then the second week, you're starting to look out. And I've got 2 young kids at home, so I count every hour. And you start to look out over the next 4 weeks and you think, gosh, it's going to be a long time. And I started to think that this feels a lot like both expeditions on the second week. And I started to realize that I don't think it matters what you do, whether you're trying to hold your breath for a couple of minutes or whether you're trying to run 10K or run a marathon or do 20 press-ups. I think each section has its own little psychological signature to it. The first 10%, it's all fun. 25% comes up pretty fast, 33% very fast after that. But then there's a big gap between 33%, a third of the way through, and 2/3 of the way through. You've got no big milestones. You think halfway is a milestone, but by the time you get to halfway, you've exhausted yourself so much to get there, you think, I cannot possibly do that much again. I think psychologically we are in the most difficult time. And I was starting to think about that and think about how we got through that on our expeditions. And I shared it on a LinkedIn post, and it's got a lot of people who have put some very nice comments on it. So,
yeah, no, totally. I sort of like see this week as last week versus the expeditions. Last week, everyone was in a little bit of a state of shock, and it's like, oh, well, it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with it. And then this week, it's coming out of shock, and it's a little bit of confusion. Still don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how long we're in lockdown for, but I know I can't sit on my ass doing nothing now, but I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I need to be doing.
Yeah. There's definitely a feeling the first week of that school's out, the school's been locked down, or school's been closed, and we've got a free day. And now, now it's not like that. Now we have to do something with our time. We've got jobs and careers. businesses to solve, and you know as well as anyone with all the companies that you've spoken to.
Yep, totally. Really interesting times.
So what?
We. Now you ask your question. You're the most important person here, my friend.
No, I just wanted to think. I've been thinking a lot about this recently. Been thinking a lot about stress. I'm doing a new speech about dealing with stress and dealing with setbacks. I was commissioned to do the speech for a client just before, actually 2 or 3 weeks, almost at the start of the year, actually, so before we knew this was going to happen. But it seems incredibly timely now, and it's really made me think about dealing with the psychological phases of taking on this uncertain time. And I think if I had one piece of advice, and probably only have time for one piece of advice, it's about recognizing that your brain, your mood, as it tries to anticipate the future, likes to project a straight line forward. If yesterday was a good day, now's a good day, tomorrow's a good day. If yesterday was a great day, today's a good day, tomorrow's a bad day. And we do tend to draw these straight lines about our experience. And we know, though, on average, our happiness returns to normal. Doesn't matter whether you lose a leg, whether you win lotto, your happiness returns to normal. So, I mean, but it's that's the nutshell. We know that's true, but it's funny that we see it, and we allowed ourselves get fooled by this all the time. Just before we came on air, I wanted to show you. I just taped something. I'm going to show it to you. I'm fascinated by the way a movie maker finishes a film, because a movie maker, when they make a great, when they make a movie, they want people to end the movie on a high. Pardon me.
It doesn't stop. You're a popular man. We get that.
There was somebody I think might be watching, actually. So here's the end of Rocky. Here's the end of Rocky 4. And what the movie maker does is exactly what your brain does. Let's see if we can get up on the screen. No. Here we go. Rocky 4, you remember Rocky's just fought the Russian freeze frame at the peak, and now they fade out, start playing the credits. Foot loose. His foot loose. Everyone's dancing. Everyone's having a great time, and freeze frame. Fade out.
Yep.
That's what your brain does. It looks to the future.
Totally.
Freeze frames at the worst possible time, and then that's what you're scared about. That's what you anticipate. And when we get stressed about something, that's what we think about. We think about that terrible moment that's going to happen. And I think it's useful to keep playing the movie forward in our head. Yes, that terrible moment does happen. And then after that, what happens?
Is your new normal. Oh, have we lost you for a sec? Have we frozen, or is that just me? Oh, you froze there for a sec. I don't know whether that was me or you, but we got to, and then what happens?
Well, the idea is that, yeah, exactly. And then what happens? And so you've anticipated these terrible things going wrong, but keep playing the movie. What happens after that? And normally life goes back to normal after that. Am I still working? Because I'm playing smoothly to me.
No, absolutely, it is, and it's actually a tried and true methodology in storytelling for years and years and years, and around that hero's journey cycle, and it's how we actually have been imparting knowledge for so many decades, or hundreds of years, or thousands of years, is when we're telling that story, there's always and we can draw the analogy to the current environment that we're in. We're just in part of the story, where it starts off and you're setting the scene. What does the village look like? I always tend to use Lord of the Rings as an example, where you know open the scene. We've got Hobbiton, and then you get introduced to the reluctant hero, which we all will get to know and love, and we learn about their hopes, their dreams, and aspirations. And if you put if you put yourself or one of your family members or anybody that you're working with in this whole situation, you can picture them in this as it relates to COVID-19 or any significant event in their life that's putting them under stress, where they've got hopes, dreams, aspirations, and then this compelling event happens that forces change. They're forced out of their environment. They have to go on this journey of discovery to save their world and to, achieve their ultimate goal and their purpose of what they want to do. And right now, for a lot of business owners, that we've been thrown right into this middle of mayhem by this sudden, compelling event. And then along comes Gandalf, which could be a business coach, a mentor, or somebody that's going to help your business get through it. And they don't do everything for you, but they empower you with this knowledge and this confidence to actually take action and move forward. So you're going to go through more shit in life, and that things are going to happen that are going to be scary and tough, but you've got the tools and resources to face it. And then you get the grand finale piece where just as you think you're going to stumble, everything sort of falls into place, and you achieve victory, and you come out of COVID-19, and your business is still intact. You haven't got divorced after being in lockdown for 4 weeks, and life is new but different. And so there's this little rosy feeling of, God, we've made it through, we've done it, we've achieved it. And what I loved about what you set the scene for there is then there's that closing credits piece where you just get this vision of, this is the new normal. And it's not, you haven't achieved anything great and amazing and things like that. It's just, this is the new normal. And it just completely sets the scene for what's the next compelling event that's going to throw stress in your life, that's going to force change. So it's a cycle that never ends. We're just experiencing something that is significant compared to most stresses that come into our lives. That's my take on it.
I like that a lot. Yes, you're right. We have to interpret our life as a story, and we have to artificially put a start and an end on it, and that's how we understand it. And so you're right, but in real life, that's not what happens. Then the story continues and gets.
Yes,
but it is a series of.
Yep. If I just look at life and business, I just think this is the world's longest series. Forget Friday the 13th, part 8. This is, the life of Glenn Marvin, part 742. We've had so many different sequels that fit into that cycle. It's just the way that I help compartmentalize it, and that's why I'm so passionate about talking to people about the story cycle. And I have to give a guy out of the States called Park Howell credit for this. Is he taught me in and around the story cycle. Is you just need to take a step back and look at your life and where it is right now, and think, if I understand that story cycle, it's built on fact, right? It's built on how life works, which is why it's so powerful in how they tell that story. At what point in that cycle am I at? Am I in my new beginning phase? Am I working with a mentor or a coach or someone like that? Or have I surrounded myself with people that I know if something happens, it's going to help get me through? Or am I in the stormy seas that are just looking like it's going to absolutely crush me, and I need to draw on that help and stick my hand up and take that advice and move forward? Or, you know what, I've actually just achieved something really freaking amazing. I'm so stoked and happy, and I'm celebrating it. But I now need to take a step back and go, well, that's great, but this is now. And if this was my biggest dream, my biggest accomplishment, the most amazing thing that I ever wanted to achieve in life, what is the rest of my life worth? Have I just said that the rest of my life is worth nothing? So right now is the start of a new story and a start of a new journey, and I'm going straight back into that cycle. What do I need to do to actually empower myself so I can go on the next journey? But
I like that a lot. So you could almost draw it as a circle,
mm-hmm.
and say because the end of one story becomes the start of another. But each of these, there's a phase, as you're talking about the reluctant hero phase, the call to action. You reject the call to action. Then there's the mentor comes, and then there's the first of several challenges, and then the big resolution. So you're saying you find yourself, and you find which phase you're in, and then you find out what you should, and because you know the phase, you know what you need to be doing to get through to the next bit. Find a mentor, for example, resolve the issue, and then move on.
Yeah, so a great point made by John Barley here. He's just put his thing in the Q&A. It's not more a point of adding color to people's lives. This event will add color to people, and it will create a new form. It will transform them, and people are in transit. So yeah, I like that. We're all in transit. I'll share with you, and I'll share with those that have joined on the call and in the Facebook groups, a link to Park Howell's site, where he's got some really, really good resource in regards to storytelling and how to actually follow that story cycle. And it's something we teach a lot of our clients. But talking of stories, and I was telling you about this just before we came on air, there is a story that has completely captured me and resonated me from, geez, when we first met, and was that one of your early speaking gigs right back 12 or so years ago?
I've been speaking for a lot of years, and so if it was 12 years ago, it would have been in the first 100 or so, 200.
12 or 13, I don't know.
No, I don't know.
We got Kevin down to this tiny little hotel in the middle of the country to speak at a conference that I was organizing, an internal team conference. And from that very, very first time I heard Kevin speak, he just absolutely captured my heart with the way that he relates these crazy adventures to real life events. And the one thing that's really resonating with me, and I can still vividly remember you telling this story, is in that first time when you did the transatlantic rowing race, and it was neck and neck, and there was all of these other athletes and boats all trying to get there, and then this massive storm came along and was approaching, and the way that you and Jamie approached it was very different to everybody else. So why don't you give us your version of events, because I'll just ruin it.
Okay. I'll tell the story. So we finally got to the start of the transatlantic rowing race. There were 16 other boats there on this hot, calm, still day. I'm very concerned because I'm about to row across the ocean with this guy I've only just met, because I trained the previous year leading up to the race with this other guy who couldn't come. He'd hurt his back. So he called me up a few weeks before the start to tell me that, which left me scurrying around trying to find someone else. Turns out that Mum wasn't keen. But I did find a guy called Jamie Fitzgerald, and he joined me at the start, and we didn't know each other very well. All the crews are eyeballing each other before the start to work out who's going to be the best, who has a chance of winning. No one really knows. The gun goes off. We spend the first day, we row out of the harbour, and row the islands off into the distance. On the second day, we start to get wind from exactly where we want to hit, and with the wind comes the waves, and pretty soon we absolutely stopped in the water by the force of this storm. Let me see if I've got a little clip of it. And here it comes. Yeah. And so two of us at the oars, it was all we could do to stay in the same spot. And we could tell that's all we were doing because of the GPS on the bulkhead just read 00. And because you're not making any ground, it's really hard to steer the boat. So that if a wave knocks the bow of the boat, the wind catches it, and then you end up having to do a big circle to row the boat back round again. I can do it. Takes a bit longer than that, but you get the idea. And you can feel your bones bending with the strain. You can hear the oars creaking. And you wonder what's going to break first, you or the boat. And what's preying on your mind is you don't have to keep on doing this. You can always put the sea anchor out. The sea anchor is like this large parachute. It goes out the bow of the boat. You tie it onto the bow. It pulls the boat into the wind and waves. And now you can go into the back cabin, have a sleep, and ride the storm out. The only problem is while you're doing it, the boat slowly drifts backwards. So the two choices you have to make is, do you put out a sea anchor or do you keep on rowing? We knew there was some tough crews in the race. And there's these two guys from Auckland who had won the previous race. And they were big, tough guys. They weren't going to stop. Pardon me. They weren't going to stop. So if they're not going to stop, then I couldn't stop. We couldn't stop. So we rode and rode throughout this long, lousy night till finally at lunchtime, the next day, things had calmed down just enough for me to be able to get out of my seat, go to the back cabin, grab the satellite phone to call up our shore crew to see how we're doing compared to the rest of the fleet. Before I could even ask them, though, they said, guys, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And I said, why is that? They said, you've got a 25-mile lead on the rest of the fleet. I thought, well, this is awesome. We've stayed in the same spot, and now we're 25 miles in front. I said, why is that? And they said, they've all put their sea anchors out. And when we got to the end, Glenn, and we won the race, do you want to guess how much we won by?
Oh, 25 miles maybe?
25 miles.
That is just insane.
It wasn't until I was sitting under a palm tree at the end, having a glass of rum punch, doing a bit of reflection, I was thinking, what did we learn on the second day? And it's something really simple. All the crews were facing the same storm. All the crews were facing the same seas. All the crews were facing the same COVID crisis. The only difference between us and them was a decision that we made that any of the others could have made, and that was to keep on rowing. That's what made all the difference in the end. And there were some days, flat calm days would make 70 miles towards the end, but not gain a single yard on the competition. The days we gained the most was when the weather turned bad and we kept on rowing.
And for me, that's the most powerful story I could ever imagine talking about when it comes to life and business when things get tough, or life in general when things get tough. We all need to take a break every now and then, but when you're in these situations of adversity where everybody else has got, especially in business, everybody else has got the choice to take their foot off the pedal, hunker down, and just ride it out. You'll find that those that just keep on rowing and go less backwards than the others are positioned much better to take advantage of things when they come out the other side. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's you have such a colourful and rich life story that I'm sure you've been through several cycles of this.
many times. So there's another comment from John Bailey who's saying that this is like the story of the old guy who ran a major marathon in Australia in his gumboots, and he won because he didn't stop. But what happens when you're on your own, or you feel you're on your own?
Can I just say, just to answer that question, thanks, John. It's awesome to talk to a peer group right now and to get on a Zoom call. And I, perhaps like you, my thoughts can turn negative at times like this. It's hard to see the opportunities. I've had every one of my presentations, all my speeches. It was looking a great year, and now all of my speeches have been cancelled. But you talk to other speakers, and you get a group of people into the room. You get that hive mind, and I've been really impressed. I have one little piece of the answer, and everyone has their own little piece of the answer, and it's amazing when we get together. I left the Zoom call we had much more positive. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, with our accelerator program clients, I have set up a daily huddle at 9:30 every morning, optional. Anyone that wants to join that call can jump in, and we just literally talk about, number one, temperature check. How are you feeling today? So we get that emotional temperature check, because that will put a lot of context in around anything that anybody says from that point onwards. And then it's just, so what actions are you taking today, whether it's for your mental health, your physical health, or your business, to move forward and keep yourself in good stead? And if we have that daily check-in with, and if we go back to that story cycle, that's like, hang on, I've got a whole group of Gandalfs that I can call on to bring in and go, Gandalf, I'm struggling here. Or, the Fellowship of the Ring. You've got all of those other people that are on that journey with you, that lift you, and when you feel that you're about to stumble, they're the ones that lift you. If you
Yeah.
try and do it all on your own, then you are on your own, and there is a very, very great likelihood that you will fail. And I think that's something that, as Kiwis in general, parents in New Zealand, and especially men, we really struggle with sticking our hand up and saying, or admitting that we need help.
Yeah. Yep, I do. I think there's something about failure that seems personal, doesn't it? It seems an embarrassment of some sort. But I think also, I don't quite, because I was that person. I wasn't asking for help. I actually didn't think I needed that much help.
Mm.
But I tell you what, listening to these people talk about the changes they're making and how they're seeing things and different angles and getting ideas just really, really improved my own mental health. And I think you're exactly right. For me, there's something about 8:30, 9:30 in the morning when you get up. It's just psychologically, it's a low point. I don't know why. It doesn't matter how much coffee I have. And it's great to check in, and it would be it would also be able to check in on other people and hear them facing the same thing.
Yeah, another question there of, do you think the survivors are going to be the survivors? Are always going to be the survivors? Sometimes we feel alone anyway. I think even the survivors, those that have got that survivor mentality, feel alone at times. What I have found in this situation is it is, unprecedented, and it is so extreme the way that even us politically, just emotionally, the situation that we find ourselves in is so extreme from a business sense that I'm finding people are much more willing to have those conversations around it. Business is shit. I don't know what to do. I'm fielding 8 to 10 calls a day from business owners, most of them not even clients, where previously the conversation would be, yeah, things are trucking along, we're doing all right, and rah. But like literally going, I don't know what to do. I need help. And I think that it is this environment where one of the silver linings that is going to come out of this is it is forcing people to acknowledge the fact that they need help and going out there and asking for it, and realizing that it's not actually a bad thing. Because there is, I got a guy in Rotorua who was importing cycling equipment, and couldn't think what to do, because all his events, he was the same as you and I, all about events and things like that. And when we sat down and we brainstormed and we broke it down, it was like, well, actually, he's got a logistics business. He's got a sourcing guy in China. We've got a great network of potential partners over there. And so we decided that the strategy was, we'll go and put something out to his network and say, well, I'm going to put my logistics resource to your out for you, so you can utilize it in any way that you want. And he's now got the opportunity to bring in a ton of face masks and things like that, because you're utilizing the existing things. And if you're on your own, sometimes you struggle to come up with that. And I think business owners in general, the more we talk and the more we collaborate and the more we share our problems, it's amazing the ideas that come up. And also I would definitely recommend people talk to their staff. Some of the ideas come from the most sometimes it's right there in front of us and we just don't see it because that person hasn't contributed necessarily on a strategic level before, but they might just be sitting there with an idea that they're afraid to put in front of you.
Sure. Yeah.
So what it's a pretty dire landscape in the events and conferencing world. I know you and I were both scheduled at a conference in May that is definitely, it's been postponed at the moment. What are some of the alternatives that you're seeing out there that are being proposed in your world, in the speaking world?
Well, I mean, the obvious one was to go to the Zoom calls and virtual meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I know of one speaker who's done a major international call. So we spoke to several offices of a company in the UK and Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there's opportunities in that way. I suspect that the motivation side of things, and the thing is, there are going to be winners and losers here. There are going to be some companies that do really well. Those companies, things will truck on as usual. So you can identify them and get close to them.
Yep.
And then there's changing a little bit like what you're saying with your cycle guy. Going into, I bring skills that are more than just motivation as well. I could be training people, for example. And I think there'll be a training budget that continues continues through this. It is possible that speaking will come back.
Yep. I've got no doubt it will.
Yeah, I don't know. But luckily I've also got other options. There's other things I can do. This is a fantastic time for me to build out content, to build out expertise, to focus on marketing. I'm really actually enjoying the time that I have. This speech on stress, I think it's going to be I'm dealing with stress and setbacks. It's going to be. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now's the time to keep on rowing.
Yeah, to keep on. Yeah. That's certainly part of it. But I think persistence is part of it. But I think a lot of advice we get about stress always seems to be peculiar. It always seems to be like if I was cold, you'd say, here, have a blanket. If I said I'm wet, you'd give me a towel. Or if I'm hungry, you'd give me food. But if I go to a website or whatever, and say I'm stressed, they always say, maybe you want a hot bath. And I'm like, I'm stressed because of the work that I've got, not because, what do I need a hot bath for? That's ridiculous. It seems a bit patronizing in some ways. And I just don't think we have, I think there needs to be more work done in making this advice more accessible and giving some good advice.
Yeah.
About that.
I've got another through that, and I have to give a shout out to Sean from Essential Talent right now as well, because he's furiously working away on behalf of people like yourself and me and a lot of other speakers out there, looking at these alternative means of getting of helping companies, in essence, connect with people like us, you and I, to still continue to add value to their employees and their workforce and their organization. And I love the idea of having someone like you jump in on an all hands meeting and share that story, because while nothing will ever compare to the vibe and the energy that you can bring to a live audience, there is still so much power in the messaging that will resonate with people, whether it's using Zoom or not. And I think for those companies that are on the up and they are pulling through, I think there's massive opportunity right now for them to take advantage of things like your services, where it may not be the full-blown speaking fee for what you've got to do to prepare and all the travel and all the other arrangements and things like that, but if they can get someone like you in for 20 minutes at the start or the end of an online all hands, or whether it's a particular division and we're dealing with stress and adversity and things like that, it's a way for those companies to connect with their remote, very much remote workforce, and show that they're still investing in them and they're still invested in their mental well-being and how they're coping with these situations and things like that as well. So if you're watching or you're listening, definitely hit Kevin up or hit Sean at Essential Talent up, and see what there is available out there for you, because Kevin and Sean will be able to tailor something to your business. That's what we do as professionals, or Kevin especially, does as a professional speaker, is understand what you need, and then tailor their presentation to suit your staff and your company. It sounds like a real sales pitch, but it's something I absolutely passionately believe in right now. As while we're working in this remote environment, it's more important than ever for senior management and corporate head offices to find alternative ways to show their staff that they are investing in their well-being. Another question. Yeah, there we go. That's the Glenn Marvin classic pitch for you. Classic one here. Very, very good question from Mr. Tony Sharp, another very good friend of mine. Which first crossing story did you enjoy the most, and why? And what everyday lessons did it provide in terms of resilience, etc.?
Oh, it's so hard to say what the favorite one was. Everyone was different. There were so many. Look, there was one. If you're ever lucky enough to get a helicopter flight from Queenstown to Milford Sound, you'll pass over this extraordinary cliff that we abseiled down. And I have to say, when I think back of the experience of the shooting, I guess 21 episodes, that was one of the best times, was to be angled out over 3,000 feet. It really would be a fantastic place to do base jumping from. It is incredibly steep. And I think that was that episode, that was the story of Grave and Talbot, as they tried to find the second entrance, because you could always come in by sea to Milford Sound, but at the turn of the century, just before the First World War, they were cycling. The school teachers from Timaru would cycle from Timaru to Tianau. Cycle to Tianau. How many hundred k's is that? And then they would start exploring to try and find these ways in. And you hear them, you read what they do, and then to be dangling off the same cliffs, and you think, these guys, I really felt, you start to feel very close to these people and how incredibly insane they were. Resilience. I guess just to round this out, we talk about what an earth-shattering time this is now. There have been in the past incredibly bad moments. I mean, unfortunately, Grave and Talbot, I think, were both killed in the First World War. This isn't a war, thank God. We're not being caught up for that. And in the past, revolutions, upheavals, black plagues, this doesn't really register on that. It's as tough as it's going to be. And we've all gotten through it. And I think that's the lesson that I take when I think a key part of resilience is, as you get older, is understanding that you have been through tough times in your life. As bad as they seemed at the time, they also receded into the rearview mirror. You moved on to the next part of the story. You go from being crushed in the trash compactor on the Death Star, then you escape.
Yep.
I'm mentioning this because you do have a remarkable young Obi-Wan look about you.
It's the COVID lockdown look. I think by the time we get out of this, I'm gonna go for the full Revenant.
And you will have wrestled with the grizzly bear and
Yeah.
survived, and you would deserve
Hmm.
to look like that.
Yeah. So it'll be the cross between yeah, Revenant and Empire Strikes Back, where well, at some stage I'll just have to slit the bear or the beast open and sleep inside its belly overnight.
The
Feels
wampa, I
feels a little
think.
bit like what we're doing right now. It's all great. Hey, mate, have you got any passing words of wisdom? And where can people get hold of you if they want to chat about getting you involved in their organisation?
The best place to come to is to call me on 027. Go to my website, kevinbiggar.co.nz. Kevinbiggar.co.nz. All the contact details are there. I'd be very happy to talk to you. And I'd love to help out with any companies that would like to motivate or to see this, just to see their staff, give their staff some mindsets and some tools to get through this difficult time.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, as you start out by saying, this is like an expedition, and there are stages that you can guarantee you're going to go through, and there are some things that you can do that they're going to make it easier.
Yeah,
and I'm very happy with that.
absolutely. Thanks, mate. Well, as usual, whenever we start talking, time has absolutely flown by. So I really, really appreciate it. For all of those of you that are on, don't forget to go to the Connector website, and there you can have a look at all the other talks that we've got coming up this week. Tomorrow we have got a look at the bank loan scheme, the $6.2 billion that the government are getting in behind the banks to support. You know, what are the options that are on offer? Who's going to be eligible? What's the criteria? On Wednesday, we've got the man himself, Andy Hamilton. So expect a few F-bombs there. And this is a guy that has been critical in investing in a number of incredibly successful New Zealand startups. He was the CEO of the Ice House for 18 years and is now chairperson of Ice Ventures, as well as investing in a whole bunch of other weird and wonderful startups that are out there. And Thursday, we're finishing off with Mr. Dave Latelli, who has gone from gang life to now building a health and wellbeing business with over 14,000 members in his community. So it's going to be a big week. And this week, I really wanted to focus on some of the health and wellbeing stuff and this resilience mindset that we're going to need to get through this confusion phase. And in the coming weeks, we're going to look at some of the options and strategies that people could or should be looking at to start thinking about progressing their business forward. So, Kevin, thanks, mate. I really appreciate it as always. And when we come out of lockdown, we've got to go for another run soon.
That's a great idea.
Good stuff.
Thanks very much, Dave.
Thanks, everybody.